Good afternoon, and thank you for coming out today. We're glad to have you, and I couldn't tell you, we couldn't be more happier to tell you about a case that's 38 years in the making. It's a case of some outstanding detective work and lab work 38 years ago on a scene that preserved evidence that let our detectives nowadays use some cutting-edge technology that we're able to get this case to court. We're certainly thankful for our partners, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, as well as the private lab that has helped us with this, the State Attorney's Office that will be prosecuting this case. And mostly, we're over the top happy for this family to finally get some closure after 38 long years. I've personally seen during my time here a family that comes often asking for updates on this case, never giving up, and we're happy to be able to bring some closure to them with this case today. But I want you to hear from the folks that has done the heavy lifting in this case, not me. So I'm going to step aside and ask Chief Detective Mike Link to come forward and brief you on the case. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. On behalf of Chief Ruben Garcia and members of the Lakeland Police Department, we are proud to announce detectives from the Lakeland Police Department's Violent Crimes Unit Cold Case Homicide Team have made an arrest in a 38-year-old cold case involving the murder of Linda Slaten. Joseph Clinton Mills, age 58, was recently arrested and booked into the Polk County Jail, charged with first-degree murder, sexual battery, and burglary with assault and battery. And provide you with a quick snapshot from the start to the end where we got here, just real briefly. On Friday, September 4th, 1981, at approximately 8:35 a.m., 31-year-old Linda Slaten was found deceased in her apartment. Ms. Slaten's two sons, who were 12 and 15 at the time, were home and last had conversation with their mother around 12:30 a.m. For 38 years, the Lakeland Police Department continued to investigate this homicide and remain in contact with the family throughout the years. During this time, well over 20 detectives, some of which have joined us here today, were assigned to work this cold case and pursued any lead developed, often taking detectives to various locations such as Louisiana, North Carolina, and multiple locations throughout the state of Florida. In May of 2014, the Lakeland Police Department created a cold case homicide team to strengthen our commitment to the community and the families of the victims whose cases remained unsolved. Detective Hathcock began reviewing this case in January 2017, which you can imagine required many hours of reviewing the entire case file, start to finish, which includes numerous police reports, the evidence collected, and after doing so, she formulated a strategy to move forward with this case.
By using the concepts of genetic genealogy, Parabon Nanolabs is able to provide leads to investigators based on DNA matches of relatives found in public genealogy databases. Currently, there are 2 genealogy databases that law enforcement is allowed to use. These are, like I said before, these are public databases that other people, such as yourselves, have entered their DNA profiles and opted in to allow law enforcement to search against. Once the genealogy profile from a crime scene evidence sample is uploaded to the database by Parabon, a list of relationship matches is received. This list of matches is essentially individuals that have uploaded their profiles that share DNA with that potential suspect. Investigators can then take that information as they would in any other case and use their investigative techniques to generate a list of suspects. They will then collect DNA from that particular individual and submit it to their crime laboratory for confirmation that that individual was in fact the donor of the original crime scene sample. Members of the public have a very unique opportunity to help us to continue to solve cases like this one. If you would like to help, please take a consumer DNA test, upload it into GEDmatch or Family Tree DNA, and opt in to allow law enforcement to search against your profile. I believe currently there are about 100 cases in the country that have been solved with the use of genetic genealogy leads. I know at FDLE we are still working more cases, and we're excited and hope to be able to share more successes with you in the future. Thank you. I am deeply honored to be able to introduce Jeff and Tim Slaten, the sons of Linda Slaten.
How y'all doing?
I'm Tim Slaten. I'm the youngest. I just want to thank everybody here, people that are not here today that worked on the case. I just want to say thanks. It's been a heck of a roller coaster, and
Nightmare.
A nightmare. I'm glad it's over. We hope. I mean, it's another whole roller coaster going to start. I just like to thank everybody that's ever been involved with the case, my family, friends. It's been hard.
It's been hard. I definitely want to thank the Lakeland Police Department for all their hard work. The snapshot, Parabon, if it wasn't for them, he'd still be on the streets now and maybe doing this to another family. I know it's been rough for me my whole life. Not know who it is. Always scared to death I was friends with him. And thank God I didn't know him. It has been hard. And he is a monster. There's no doubt about it. Somebody can do this. Somebody just keep living their life like nothing's wrong. It's horrible. And his hell's getting started now. I know me and my brother and our family's been going to hell for over 38 years over this. Just always looking over our shoulder and don't know who it is the absolute worst. It's horrible. I wouldn't wish it on anybody.
No.
Sorry.
Can I ask you guys real quick? I mean, the chief mentioned that you guys have come by here. You were very active and still always looking for information.
Always.
Always, yes.
I had a day off. I'd come by here and Detective Baccarat. I actually named my son after him because he really wanted to solve it pretty bad.
Yeah, we was up here a lot bugging him, so
Always.
we
up
got
here.
to know a lot of them by names and stuff. So
Yeah, I consider a lot of my friends, you
Yeah.
know. Get to know them all by first name and got some of them cell phone numbers. And there's a lot of great people here, Lakeland Police
Yes.
Department.
a lot of good
Long
people.
time. You never gave up?
No,
No,
never
never.
did. No, I know I tell other people that you're going through the same thing. Just always keep going to the police department. Let me know you know
Yeah,
you care about
stay
what's
involved.
going on with your
Stay
mom or
involved.
something.
As far as Mr. Mills, did your mother know him or?
He was my football coach,
Oh.
Yeah.
and I trusted this man. He'd take me home after the games and practice.
Yeah, our mom
And
trusted
then we
me.
found this out. I just found out last week, and I've been in shock over it because this is something I was supposed to trust, and he does something like this to my family. And I saw the crime scene. You know, it's still burnt in my brain today. A lot of people didn't see it. They seen it on pictures. I saw it firsthand what he done, and he's a monster.
I know, I was lucky enough I didn't see it. My Aunt Judy was the one who found my mom, and my brother seen it that morning when he got up. I thank God I never did see it. And I hated he had to see it.
Did I hear you say that you always thought it was this man?
No. I mean, over the years, somebody had a legal pad with names coming there all the time. It was got to be this guy, not him. It's got to be this guy, not him. And there's a list of names over the years, and none of them were a match until they start doing all the DNA that they got, the technology today, and that's then it hit on it. And he was the last person on my brain that I thought was going to do it. I mean, we had all these other suspects for years. It's got to be this guy. It's got to be that guy, and it wasn't. And when they told me the news last week, I've been in shock ever since because I rode in the car with this guy months after the fact.
Can you tell us about your mom?
Yeah, she's a good woman. She's a single mother, and she wasn't like a piece of crap. She always took care of me and my brother. She always made sure we was taken care of. She wasn't a bad person, no means. Like you hear a lot of mothers are bad mothers, they're on drugs. She wasn't that way. She always took care of us. She was always there for us.
Yeah, and we didn't have a whole lot. We was living in government housing on food stamp and welfare. She was trying to do the best she could to take care of us. And then this monster, he took her away from us. And I wanted to burn in hell forever. Look what he done.
I just want to take her fishing, and I don't fish.
Your mom, did she work or anything else you could tell us about her?
I know at one point she used to work for a school board, but it was when we lived in Alabama. I think she was a librarian. And then when we came down here, back then, I guess jobs were hard to find. The economy was bad. I was 12. I don't know. I was just out having fun.
We were just trying to be kids.
I mean, I was trying to be a kid. And then that changed real quick when I was 12.
Did your mom, was she, like him being a football coach and bringing you home all the time, was she like close to him or she would just be like, hi, bye, thanks for dropping him off?
I don't think she ever really talked to him that I knew of, but, because we didn't have a car at the time. If my aunt couldn't pick me up, he was always like, well, I live right down the road, I'll take you home, or I can pick you up, Or I ride with another guy I used to play with that lived around the corner from me, and sometimes I'd ride with him, but most of the time it was this coach taking me home. And like I said, I was in the car multiple times by myself with this guy and never had a clue.
After the fact.
After the
After the
fact.
fact, yeah. He just told me this a week ago. It made me sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
He could do this and just.
I mean, I never thought this was the guy on my radar for years until they told me last week, and I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
I'm sorry, this might be a little bit too early, but if you could talk to him, what would you say to him?
The biggest thing is why. My
Yeah,
mom wouldn't hurt
why?
anybody. Everybody loved my mom. Everybody always, she had me when she was only 15, and everybody always thought we was brothers and sisters, growing up. I've heard from a lot of friends, the last few days, everybody's got kind words to say about her. She was a
I mean,
great person.
from what I hear from family, she never met a stranger. She would talk to anybody. She was nice to everybody, and just what I would say to him, I really don't know.
My biggest thing is why. Why would he want to do that to somebody? We didn't have nothing. Why would he have to do that to my mom? It's the biggest thing is why. And then just go on living his life
Yeah.
like nothing's wrong.
In the same town the whole
Same
time.
town.
And I'm sure every
Doesn't
time we've been
bother
on
me.
TV, he's probably been laughing at us
Yeah.
and never had a clue.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
I have a question for the DNA lady.
Okay.
Okay, hold on just a second here. We're going to let the boys step back. I'll close it out, and then we'll stand for some questions. How about
Okay.
that? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, we'll bring this to a close and everything, and we'll stand for some questions after a few minutes here. To Jeff and Tim, I want to tell you that it's been 38 years, but we got it closed for you. We never gave up on you. We never forgot about your mother. We always kept her in the back of our minds. We always worked on the case for 38 years. I hope with this arrest it does bring you and your families a little bit of comfort and peace so that you can go on with your lives.
Thank you so much. Definitely.
To Detective Hathcock and the other investigators that work this case, I'm so proud of you, what you did. It's an amazing feat. We got the lead, that's all it was. It was good old-fashioned police work that you guys did, and I'm very, very proud of each one of you of what you did. So thank you. I hope the success we have had in making an arrest in this case brings some reassurance to the community and the families whose loved ones' case remains unsolved that the Lakeland Police Department is committed to investigating these cases because we owe it to the families, and that's what we do. We are encouraging our community to continue to work with us in solving these unsolved homicides and any other crimes in our community by providing information they may have, regardless of how insignificant they may think it is. We want to thank you, the media, for covering this arrest in this case and ask you to continue to partner with us in our efforts to solve these unsolved cases or any other crimes committed in our community. It's at this time that we'll stand for any questions that you may have. And whoever you want to ask, we can bring them up.
Miss Donna Wallace,
Yes, ma'am.
you were kind of talking kind of fast. I want to make sure I understood what you said. Something about one of Mill's family members submitted DNA to the DNA database.
To a genetic genealogy database. That's how genetic genealogy works.
The ones where you find out like where, if you're from Irish or something like that.
Yes, that's where the genealogy profiles can be developed, and then they're entered into databases that allow the public to enter their genetic genealogy profile. Wherever they may have had it developed. They allow the public to enter their DNA profile into this public database, and then if that individual opts in, law enforcement is then able to search against their DNA profile to find close relative or relationship matches. They don't necessarily have to be close.
So one of his relatives' DNA was in this public database, and it came up as a match to DNA in this case?
That's correct. That's how the genetic genealogy works, is when you enter that profile into the public database, we're then looking for we're looking for relationship matches, which means somebody within his genealogy, his genetic line.
And so once they had the DNA match from this genealogy database, it was a match to DNA at the scene for this crime, then I think that's you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So then she interviewed him, Mills, again, and then those interviews led to this arrest. Is that what you said?
The DNA that's entered into the public DNA database genealogy database, is not the same DNA profile that's used in the crime laboratory. It's a different type of DNA, and it's used to confirm. The crime laboratory is actually the one that will confirm the DNA of the crime scene sample is consistent and matches with the individual that they developed as a suspect.
Can you say which relative it was?
No, I cannot.
How close of a match, and at what point was there a match, a year ago? How long did it take to connect the dots?
I'm not sure how close the match was. I don't have that information. And the information came back to the Lakeland Police Department as soon as they got it, as soon as it was received.
I'm trying to break this down for the general public. So you're saying that this genealogy DNA match gave the police department idea that, hey, it could be somebody in this family, and that's when you start looking through the family to get their, you went and got their DNA Mills.
Correct.
And connected to the crime scene.
That is correct. And once they collected DNA from the individual that they were thinking might be their suspect, that's submitted to the crime laboratory within FDLE, and then we ran that particular sample and compared it to the crime scene sample from 1981.
How solid is your evidence? Are you sure 100% that you can't get out of this one way or the other, or some?
Let me handle that one.
I'll put it to you this way. The state attorney's office brought the charges and the issues before a grand jury, and the Mills was indicted. So I feel comfortable saying our evidence is pretty solid.
Do you have a confession or anything?
We did conduct an interview. We're not going to go into the specific details about what was discussed and what was his responses and everything. We'll let that come out in the court system. But yeah, we were able to get some good interviews with him.
In the last 38 years, did his name ever come into the investigation ever?
Not that I'm aware of. He was listed as someone that was spoken to the day after, I believe, of the incident of the homicide, simply based on the fact that he, again, was transporting Tim to and from practice and everything.
Did he voluntarily give his DNA to compare that match?
There's a point in time where we used investigative means to be able to get a first sample of DNA, which was sent and then came back with a hit and brought us more towards him. And once we were able to do some interviews, correct me if I'm wrong, Detective Hackett, we had a warrant for it. We obtained a search warrant issued by the state to obtain his DNA, which has now been sent off to FDLE to do another comparison.
According to the affidavit, it involves some trash at his property, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You had fingerprints and DNA from the scene.
Yes.
A number of people have asked me why, if they had the DNA, they had the fingerprints then,
right,
why they weren't able to come up with a match then. Is that the technology?
I'll speak quickly to the fingerprints back in that day. It was a partial palm print, and a partial palm print is not what they call APHIS quality, and back then they were not accepting it at that point in time. It still is not APHIS quality, so we had to do a manual search. Once we learned who we had as a potential suspect, we learned also that he had been arrested shortly thereafter, a few years after the event. So therefore we had fingerprints on file, then we could take and compare them manually by our technicians to confirm it was him. That was his print inside the location. The DNA, I might have to turn that over to Donna and let her answer that question about the DNA and everything.
We've had the crime scene DNA profile essentially since the early 2000s, I believe, and it has been searching in our CODIS database. It just never hit to this individual because he was never in the database for any other case. So we've never hit on any other case or never on his standard if it had been submitted for some other reason as a qualifying offender within our DNA database here in the state. So he's just never, he's not in that database for it to have hit on.
Can you just explain one more time in a very layman's way how the DNA matched, how you guys matched the original DNA?
Yes. We received a sample in this case, a crime scene sample. Lakeland Police Department submitted samples to the laboratory just like any other agency would, and we ran that sample and developed a DNA profile. That profile then, like I said, we enter it into our DNA database and it searches. Once we developed a genetic genealogy program, we were able to then partner with Parabon and send some of that sample off to them. They were able to develop a genealogical DNA profile and enter it into the public genealogy databases. They then received a list of matches, relative or relationship matches that they were able to look at and do their genealogy analysis and then provide Lakeland Police Department with a family line or a name, some information of you may want to look at these particular individual or individuals. So then the Lakeland Police Department, just like any other investigative lead, took that information and started looking within their community and doing their investigative work. They collected DNA sample from an individual, submitted it to the FDLE crime lab in Tampa. We were able to run that sample and compare it back to the original profile that we obtained in the case, and to say that yes, it is in fact a match.
So if one of his family members did decide to do this genealogy thing, you guys would have it?
That is correct. If he didn't have any relationship matches within the genetic genealogy databases, we would not have gotten any information. So that's why when I spoke earlier, if anybody does want to continue to help solve these types of crimes, it's very important for the public to put their genetic profiles into either GEDmatch or Family Tree DNA and opt in for law enforcement to be able to search. We can't search in any other databases. These are ones that are open to the public, and the individual entering their profile into the database has to opt in to allow law enforcement to search.
This question is for Chief Garcia or Assistant Chief Link. I believe Ms. Wallace said that there were 5 suspects identified in Lakeland cold cases. How many cold cases are there in the city, and does this bring you hope for the city?
We have about 28 open cold cases that we're currently working.
Not including this one now?
Not including this one. And we're hoping this will be an incentive for folks that may have information in all those cases to maybe come forward and give us that little piece of information that would move that next case forward as well.
Have you sent the DNA from those cold cases?
Each of those cases are in different stages of process, and any evidence that is workable in the lab will eventually get there, yes.
Okay, so it is your intention to gather the DNA?
Yes, it's our intention to use every technology that we can leverage to close all these cases.
Chief, can you tell us about the suspect, Mills? I mean, this was 38 years ago. Like, is he a father? What was he doing in the community since then? Maybe they know more.
Right, there's nothing unique, I would say. Just
like, where did he work? Did he have kids? Was he married?
I would have to turn that over to the detectives.
Yeah, at this time he's not working, and he did have children.
Not married?
He is married, yes.
Has he been arrested before in this time period for anything?
No, the only arrest he had was in 1984.
What was that for?
Just the grand theft.
Can you describe what it's like for you guys to be able to close this case? They said 20 other detectives have worked it, I'm sure, probably losing a lot of sleep at night trying to get to the bottom of it, and now you guys finally are able to close it. What's it like for a detective to close a case like that?
It's definitely rewarding, and it makes me very happy to be able to give this family a little bit of peace, and just to be able to have a small portion in this investigation. I mean, there's been so many people that worked on it way before I was even an officer, so it's great that we collected so much stuff at the beginning, and we've been able to get to the point to be able to give this family some peace and some closure.
What's your first name?
Tammy, Tammy. Hathcock, Hathcock.
May I correct something that was said? I'm sorry. You asked a question earlier. You mentioned that the 5 cases to date that had been identified for Lakeland. Oh, I'm sorry. You had mentioned the 5 cases to date were for Lakeland PD. They're not. They're for individual agencies within the state of Florida. To date, we have 5 cold cases that have been solved using genetic genealogy leads. This was the first one for Lakeland PD. Yes, you're welcome. Thank you.
All right, there's no more questions. We'll go ahead and close this out. But again, thank you for coming. We appreciate you covering this event for the family and for us here at the police department. Thank you.